In 1956, Alabama, along with many other southern states including Arkansas, Louisiana, Georgia, and Florida, all worked at eliminating the NAACP. In response to their harsh rejection, the NAACP retaliated with the now famous court case, NAACP versus Alabama, a case which lasted 8 years, finally ending in 1964 when the Supreme Court deemed Alabama had lost. Another important topic in the same year was Arthur and Lucy's attendance of the University of Alabama. Lucy, an African-American English graduate, was not initially considered for acceptance until the NAACP took action in 1955. After a successful Lucy v. Adams court case, the university reluctantly accepted her application, and in 1956 Lucy became the first African-American to ever attend a university in the state of Alabama.
Ole Miss riots erupted as James Meredith prepared to attend his first class in Oxford, Mississippi. Some 3,000 individuals, including students, local citizens, and Klan groups from Florida to Texas, encouraged by previous remarks made by Governor Ross Barnett against desegregation, fought against U.S. Marshals with bricks, sticks, bottles, and homemade bombs. After doing all he could to avoid it, President Kennedy finally ordered more than 20,000 U.S. Army soldiers headquartered in nearby Memphis to restore order on the campus.
No man, however prominent or powerful, and no mob, however unruly or boisterous, is entitled to defy a court of law.
When it ended, 2 people were dead and 60 marshals had been injured. James Meredith ended up attending Ole Miss despite all of these hardships and received his political degree. Today, James Meredith is seen as an imperative force against the unequal treatment of all mankind. On September 26, 1962, the nice guy, crowd favorite, heavyweight champion of the world, Floyd Patterson, lost his esteemed heavyweight crown to Charles "Sonny" Liston. Boxing fans loved Floyd Patterson for his big heart and courage. They loved him for his Olympic gold and his polite, soft-spoken ways. On the other hand, Sonny Liston was one of the most disliked and infamous heavyweights in the business. He had mob connections, and he was big and mean. He was bigger than most heavyweights of his day, and much bigger than Floyd. His fighting weight was well over 210 pounds, and he was armed with unmatchable strength. He easily disposed of all contenders in the heavyweight ranks. Floyd ducked Sonny for 2 years. Some said it was because the boxing commission, the fans, and the public did not think of a man of Liston's crime-ridden past and mob connections deserved a shot at the title. When Sonny finally received his chance, he easily defeated Patterson, disposing of him in the first round.
Now that final combination, the left, the grazing right, and then a solid left.
Newspapers described the 19,000 fans as shocked and disappointed by the quick knockout. A year later in the rematch, Liston dropped Patterson again in the first round. Floyd didn't have a chance. Floyd's losing disappointed the American people very much, as it was a hero falling to a bad guy.
The term Beatlemania originated from the intense fan frenzy for the Beatles during their first years of their success. The Beatles were an English rock band with their original members John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. When arriving to New York's JFK Airport, the four were welcomed by a huge crowd of teenage fangirls, spreading Beatlemania in 1964. At first, the group concentrated on rock and roll and skiffle in the 1950s. Later on in their careers, they started working with different musical genres, from Tin Pan Alley to psychedelic rock. Their clothes, style, and statement immensely influenced the social and cultural revolutions of the 1960s. After the band broke up in 1970, the four members began their soon-to-be solo careers.
Brigitte Bardot, Parisian model, actress, singer, and animal rights activist, was one of the bombshells that reigned in the 1950s and 60s. Bardot was widely known for her role in the 1956 film And God Created Woman. In this film, Bridget played a rather promiscuous 18-year-old, which in the modest 1950s was unheard of. But the film's scandalous nature is what made the public attracted to it, and not to mention Bardot. Succeeding the movie's release, she then became an overnight sensation and starred in several more cinemas until her retirement in 1973. But Bardot was not in the limelight just because of her good looks and talent. Her personal life was also incredibly public. This was due to the fact that she had numerous well-publicized affairs throughout the course of her 3 marriages during the 50s and 60s. Although once Bridget retired from show business, she seemed to calm down exponentially, going on to found the Bridget Bardot Foundation for the Welfare of Animals. In 1992, Bardot truly settled down when she married her 4th and final husband, Bernard Diormel, whom she currently lives with in her hometown of Paris, France.
Grace Kelly was born in 1929 in Philadelphia. She turned out to be one of the most successful actresses of the time. Her father was a millionaire with his brick business of the East Coast, and her mother was an athletics coach. However, Grace showed immense interest towards performance at a young age. Ignoring her parents' disapproval for the arts, Kelly enrolled in a dramatic arts academy. After a series of successes throughout her career, she married Prince Rainier III of Monaco. If he didn't have an heir, he'd have to give Monaco to France. Therefore, he marries Grace, ending her acting career in order to fully carry out her duties as princess. She became involved in charity organizations and founded many of her own, still missing her acting career. Grace Kelly died in a tragic accident with her daughter in 1982.
John Herschel Glenn Jr., born July 18, 1921, is a retired United States Marine Corps pilot, astronaut, and United States Senator. He was the first American to orbit the Earth and the 5th person in space. He flew the Friendship 7 mission on February 20, 1962. In this mission, an Atlas launch vehicle propelled a Mercury spacecraft into Earth orbit and enabled Glenn to circle Earth 3 times. 3 years after completing this groundbreaking mission, Glenn retired from the military and resigned from NASA, so he could be eligible to stand for election to public office. He was elected to represent Ohio in the U.S. Senate from 1974 to 1999. Glenn received a Congressional Space Medal of Honor in 1978 and the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2012. He was inducted into the Astronaut Hall of Fame in 1990. On October 29, 1998, he became the oldest person to fly in space at age 77 when he flew on the Discovery.
9, 8, we have a go for engine start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery with a crew of 6 astronaut heroes and 1 American legend.
Houston Discovery, roll program.
Today, John Glenn is living in Cambridge, Ohio, and is still viewed as a hero in American eyes today.
Lawrence of Arabia is said to have been one of the greatest and most influential films in history. This film follows the life of Thomas Edward Lawrence during World War I in Cairo. Lawrence was an intelligence officer who was given leave to investigate the progress of the Arab revolt against the Turks in World War I. In the desert, he organizes a guerrilla army and for 2 years leads the Arabs in harassing the Turks with desert raids, train wrecking, and camel attacks. He then goes on to lead his army northward and helps a British general destroy the power of the Ottoman Empire. Lawrence died at age 46 in a motorcycle accident 2 years after returning from his military conquests. Nikita Khrushchev was a Soviet Union leader during the Cold War after Stalin's death in the 1950s. He took over as first secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. He was part of the Bolsheviks in 1918 and believed in benefits of the workers' state. Khrushchev gave speeches of the end of Stalin's era, although no one were to say anything negative about Stalin at the time. He also believed in superiority of communism, which was highly controversial at the time.
Budapest, 1956. Since 1945, Hungary had been under oppressive Soviet occupation, which encompassed actions such as the removal of all wealth from the country. In Budapest, the capital of Hungary, protesters were filing the streets in opposition as Soviet soldiers and tanks followed. And although the rebellion was technically unsuccessful, it did lead to the eventual loss of power by Russia. Another result which came from the situation was the bettering of foreign relations to Hungary, especially from the US. Trouble in the Suez, 1956. The Suez Canal was and still is an important part of trade for Asia, the United States, the Middle East, and Europe, due to the fact that it is the only means of transportation between the Mediterranean Sea and the Indian Ocean. In 1956, Israel, allied with Britain and France, aimed an attack on the canal because of long-term disputes with Egypt over power and control. Egypt was quick to be defeated, and it wasn't long before the entirety of the canal was occupied by Israelis. No resolution had occurred until the UN intervened and cleared the area of all violence. As a result, Britain and France were temporarily and internationally looked down upon for their actions, and Egypt was allowed control over the canal on the grounds that all vessels must be permitted entrance.